Imagine this. You're sitting with your partner or close friend, and they bring up something that's been bothering them. Instantly, you feel a tightness in your chest. Your mind starts racing with ways to change the subject or diffuse the tension. You avoid eye contact, nod along, and hope it will all just blow over. Sound familiar? If you're like many people, the idea of conflict can be incredibly uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Avoiding conflict might actually be doing more harm than good, both for you and your relationships. In this video, we're going to dive into why avoiding conflict can be damaging, how it affects your personal growth and relationships, and actionable steps to start addressing conflict in a healthy way. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see that facing conflict head-on could be one of the most empowering decisions you make. So why do we avoid conflict in the first place? 1. Understanding the fear of conflict. Avoiding conflict often stems from a deep-rooted fear of rejection or loss. Many of us believe that bringing up disagreements will push others away, or we fear we won't be able to handle the emotional intensity that comes with conflict. But this fear creates a cycle of avoidance. The more you dodge conflict, the more daunting it becomes and the less likely you are to ever confront it. Avoidance may feel safer in the short term, but it leaves issues unresolved and can create distance in relationships over time. 2. Conflict is necessary for growth. When you avoid conflict, you rob yourself of opportunities for growth. Conflict often brings underlying issues to the surface, allowing both parties to understand each other's needs and perspectives better. Without conflict, you might stay stuck in misunderstandings or patterns that aren't serving you. Think of conflict as a catalyst for change. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also a gateway to deeper understanding, trust, and resilience in your relationships. 3. Avoidance leads to resentment. One of the hidden dangers of avoiding conflict is that it breeds resentment. When you keep your feelings bottled up, those emotions don't disappear. They build up over time. Resentment grows each time you suppress an issue or hold back on expressing how you feel. Eventually, small annoyances can turn into big problems. By avoiding conflict, you may feel like you're keeping the peace, but in reality, you're allowing negative emotions to fester beneath the surface. Addressing issues when they arise prevents resentment from accumulating and keeps your relationships healthier. 4. Conflict allows for true connection. Real connection in relationships isn't just about harmony. It's about honesty and vulnerability. When you're open about your feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, you give others the chance to know the real you. It's only through addressing disagreements and sharing your true thoughts that deeper intimacy and understanding can form. If you constantly avoid conflict, you're building walls between you and the people who care about you. True connection requires the courage to be open even when it's hard. 5. How to approach conflict without fear. Now that we understand why avoiding conflict isn't helpful, let's discuss practical ways to start facing it. The first step is to shift your mindset. Instead of viewing conflict as a negative experience, try to see it as an opportunity for growth. Approach it with curiosity rather than dread, focusing on understanding both your feelings and the other person's perspective. 6. Practice active listening. During conflict, one of the keys to resolving conflict constructively is learning to listen actively. Active listening means focusing entirely on the other person's words without planning your response while they're speaking. Make eye contact, nod, and use phrases like, "I hear you," or "I understand." This approach helps the other person feel heard and valued, which can significantly reduce tension. It also gives you a clearer understanding of their perspective, making it easier to find common ground. 7. Use I statements. During conflict, it's easy to fall into a blame game, which only escalates tension. Instead, use I statements to express how you feel without pointing finger. For example, say, "I feel hurt when," rather than "you always." This approach keeps the focus on your feelings, making it less likely that the other person will become defensive. I statements allow for an open discussion without creating additional conflict or making the other person feel attacked. 8. Take responsibility for your emotions. It's essential to recognize that conflict can stir up intense emotions. Instead of expecting the other person to manage your feelings, take responsibility for them. Recognize when you're feeling triggered and take a moment to breathe and ground yourself. This self-awareness can prevent you from reacting impulsively and creating more conflict. Owning your emotions is a powerful tool in managing conflict constructively. 9. Set boundaries and agree on timeouts. If conflicts become overwhelming, consider setting boundaries around them. Agree on a timeout if emotions start to run too high, and revisit the issue after a short break. Taking time to cool off and reflect can prevent conflicts from escalating and allow both parties to approach the conversation with a clearer mind. This technique can be especially useful if you're new to addressing conflict and still find it challenging to handle strong emotions. 10. Celebrate the progress as you start facing conflict instead of avoiding it. Take time to celebrate your progress. Each time you address an issue head-on, you're building your emotional resilience and strengthening your relationships. Reflect on what you learned from each experience and use it to handle future conflicts with more confidence. Remember, avoiding conflict doesn't make it disappear. It only delays the inevitable. Facing it, however, leads to growth, connection, and the freedom to express your authentic self. Addressing conflict is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. The next time you feel the urge to avoid a tough conversation, remind yourself of the benefits of facing it instead. By confronting issues openly, you're creating space for growth, honesty, and deeper connections with those you care about. Don't let the fear of conflict hold you back from living authentically. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who might benefit from learning the importance of facing conflict. Stay tuned to Lutical Connections for more insights on relationships, personal growth, and emotional well-being.